single point for having skins in their lobby, having already received a prior warning, which led us to a rather incredible situation that you picked up on this morning, Lorinda.
Yeah, we actually got a tie. Each lobby gives an odd number of points, and there are 3 lobbies, so it is impossible to tie in Battlegrounds in this tournament because there was an odd number of points applied as penalties. Just the way it worked out, it wasn't a 5-point penalty, and the players were placed 8th, like you said. So if that had to work out precisely to be an odd number before we even started, and then we're going into the 3rd lobby, it wasn't like a retroactive thing where the judges went, let's just call it a tie and go home, which is the sort of ruling we have seen in tournaments before. Yeah, it just worked out precisely as a tie, which gave 1 point each to the competitors. Looks like we have got a regame of sorts. We'll keep an eye on what the ruling is going to be. But obviously, everything we just said about the lobby is now null and void. So let's try again. Jinbei is on the Sneeds, and his results have not been good in this tournament so far. A lot of 6th and 7th.
Sneed. I keep saying it every time, and you haven't picked up on it yet. The minion was Sneed's old shredder, the old shredder that belonged to Sneed. This is Sneed.
I understand. He's got an old shredder.
He has got an old shredder.
He's also got an elemental.
It barely does crosscut anymore. It gets jammed up when you put anything. It's just a useless shredder.
Yeah, you just don't want to shred anything with it at all. But it does drop an
awful
lot of death rattles.
Hang on, he did the thing!
Yeah.
He's a Cell Hero Power gamer. Very interesting. Obviously, this gives you theoretically more power on turn 1. It allows you to do some damage. I guess queuing into Yogg, the fear is that you'd actually take damage there with just a Elemental on board, so he was trying to play around that. But that is 1 gold that he's not going to be able to spend later. Meanwhile, Yoonjoy is on the Yogg, picking up a pretty sick double token start, which actually opens up the possibility for cheating a level or just going outright aggro Yogg here, and she chooses to go aggro Yogg instead, picking up maximum tokens on these turns. Oh, this is a lobby! This is a lobby, Lorinda! Murloc's in, Beast's in, and Elemental's in as well. And from what I'm seeing up at the top, that is what? Demons, Pirates, Dragons band, which means the mechs are hanging around to deal with all this nonsense as well with the Mechano tank. This is the lobby we've been waiting for.
Yeah, I know. Right from the start. Oh, what is going on? There's tokens on the... Everybody's got the tokens as well as them being in. Like, everybody got loads of tokens. I'll be interested to see how Yoonjoy does, actually, because she's been a token enjoyer and doing well with them, even in the other lobbies. She sort of likes that curve where she just gets to get lots of money early on, and she tends to stay low curve as well. So on that Yogg, going to be interesting to see how she develops. But yeah, you're going to get to talk about as much milking as you want to in this.
Hey! I hope you like the word milk, chat, because you're going to hear it a lot. Those are 2 Elementals in shop for Collins. That is huge. He already has a pair locked up with the Micro Mummy as well. Now we're seeing the full breakdown of the heroes on the left. You've got to say, what, DeLonge probably hit the low roll here. Patchwork stands out this one by a lot. Dog has George on a pretty good George lobby, I would say. He has the option of going Murlocs. He also has the option of going Quillbores, but Mechs not being in does reduce his ability to get like Respot, for example, and actually pump up the stats on any Divine Shield minions that he throws out. But I think overall, good to great heroes all around, apart from DeLonge on the Patchwork, and then some mid-tier stuff, I suppose, with the Yogg and the Vol'jin on Bill and Yoonjoy as well.
2 comments there. First of all, Collins is on Rafam, and we have seen everybody has the same board. So
True,
he is going to get triple after triple after triple unless things go terribly wrong. And secondly, we see that Patchwork for DeLonge. DeLonge's results haven't been particularly great in this tournament so far. Again, sample size is a thing. We have to be careful. But Patchwork is a way to get yourself up that leaderboard into sort of the mid-tiers and just take a 5th or 4th place and get out.
Yoonjoy going level 3s. I do wonder whether this is just worth taking now, getting the 4-drop on board immediately. The benefits of which being you don't have to waste the 1 gold on a shop, and you can just see the straight up level 3 shop next turn. You can just let it roll. If you do hit a scaler, you can then quite easily spend your next turn just spending all of your gold on milking food, right? You can just aggressively look for acolytes and death rattles and what. Hello? Sorry? Excuse me? Are you okay, Battlegrounds?
Bob's got a surplus. He's just been storing these up for years, and now he's trying to sell them all in one go to unsuspecting customer.
Okay, what was I saying before that happened, and was it important? Probably
Nothing's
not.
important compared to that board.
Yeah,
Oh,
okay.
goodness. Right, Sneed himself is
There you go.
lining up a board of death battles nice and early. It's going to be interesting to see how that turns out. Because you commented about the thing and then I cut you off, but it is a big deal to give up a gold for this death rattle that becomes out of date relatively quickly.
It does, yeah, because not only do you straight up just get higher value death rattles, you will want to sell those lower value death rattle minions at some point. Not only because you want to sell things to get more gold back, because that's how the game works, but just having a low value death rattle minion on the board actually costs you stats most of the time. DeLonge hits our first light spawn of the game that we've seen on the left hand side, by the way. But just to finish the point, you want to get rid of those low value death rattles so you actually have room on your board for high value death rattles from your bigger stuff. You don't want these little garbage minions going off unless you're just straight up playing like Mechano tank build, right? And then you just want any kind of death rattle you want, stodging things up for as long as possible.
DeLonge got greedy there. She sold off for another triple this turn. Obviously, we've discussed it quite at length, but when she picked up that light spawn, the eyes lit up. It's like, oh, let's try and get another one, because 4s tend to be better than 5s as a general rule. We all know about general rules often being wrong. When she saw that first one, she's like, okay, I can sell board. I'm on a high health hero. Let's see if I can absolutely just knock this out of the park. She didn't pick much up with that second triple into the fourth.
And there we see the exact two types of people. Sorry, I mistakenly as well was saying earlier that mechs weren't in when I said quite the opposite earlier, which is my mistake.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. It's, no, you can always correct me. It's such a rare opportunity to
No,
be
I'm
able
going to
correct
correct you
me
if I don't make the same mistake. I just
that you should just leap upon it. But yes, actually, this is a really good George lobby. Just reassessing what I was saying about Dog at the time with the lobby setup that he had for George. It's actually an incredibly good George lobby overall.
Collins is just going full greed here, I think. Is he going to go for 6s? He's got enough health. He's going to hit more triples. He's seen the state of this lobby now. Can he go for 6?
He's thinking about it. He's certainly thinking about it. The thing is, he's already done the thing into the 4, right, and already picked up the Mechano tank, which means that he's fine for tempo for some time, so he can choose to go for big greedy win condition if he really wants to. Jinbei on Sneed, super important when you triple into your 4 that you are hitting one of those Avenge minions, because you are the best milker in the entire game when you are playing Sneed. And immediately, love his recognition, love his priorities, forget about everything else. How do I put taunts on my board and just make sure these death rattle chains start to go off? Because as long as he can line this up in a way that his death rattles keep proccing, he's going to keep 7 minions on the board for a very, very long time and really maximize the amount of milk that he's getting from that Witch Wing.
And I think we are going to get to see the meta thing we talked about there. I think there's 3 players on tanks, if I've observed it correctly, which, sometimes is right. And we've got the rest on very high quality Avenge strats. But with the elementals in, and they've had very fast starts, it's going to be a battle of the tank versus the milk here, I'm pretty sure. Which is weird, right? You want to milk into your tank, but that's not quite how it works out.
Yeah. Patchwork here, for DeLonge, still taking a little bit of time to set up with that light spawn. You see the look on Slissa's face. She knows that she is in a little bit of trouble here. As you were saying, basically everyone else has a plan, be it a straight up win condition plan with the light spawns, or with the Witch Wing Nest Matron for Jinbei looking to tempo out with that Sneed, or everyone just having the hardcore tempo tanks. Slissa has none of that. She's just kind of on her own, slowly dying as an eagle over there, and that's in stark contrast to the way that Slissa's tournament has gone so far. I think she has been one of the overall most consistent performers. Hasn't been hitting those big spikes and those big lobby wins as much as some other people have. But yesterday, I believe she went, third, fourth in her 3 games that we watched her play yesterday, which is an incredible level of consistency overall.
Collins went for the 6. He couldn't resist. I was going to mention that I don't think he'd be... If he gets it in his head, he's going for a 6. I don't think Collins in particular is going to turn that down. He likes to go up through the tavern tiers as quickly as possible. He's a very it's the opposite of aggressive in some ways, but he levels aggressively if he gets the opportunity. And like you pointed out, with the board he had and the way it was going, he did have that chance to go for a6 early.
Yeah, I think in particular, a Mega Buster was such a good hit for him that it was worth going for because, you know, look at the board he left himself behind while going for that 6. 4 mechs, one of which with Divine Shield, one of them still being a tank as well. He can quite easily take in a Mega Buster there, be strong for another 2-ish turns just purely based off that Buster, and then by using the tank to defend with tempo, he can spend a lot of time looking for barons and modules and mech crawls and all the extra things that you want to spend off finishing off that comp.
Looking down
Doesn't get
the
it,
right-hand
takes
side,
a consolation prize instead with the Foe Reaper.
Enjoy has a deceptively good board, I feel, here. It can go in a lot of different directions. It's going to have the time to do so on this Yogg. But she has run into this to improve monstrously over that turn. Did pick up the Slight Storm, which is obviously a little bit slow, but she has all the death rattles to back it up. So Slissa may have stabilized it.
Yeah, we will see. The big issue is, of course, that she doesn't have the health to actually spend milking here. She just kind of has to go straight up for being strong, which means the amount of total procs that she'll get off that light spawn might be a little bit more limited than other people. Does take a hit again, but almost always going to be a non-factor here. She was usually going to be in one-shot range to her next loss anyway. Also got a snapshot of Dog's board there on the George, who was, I believe, Colin's opponent. Dog has everything you want as George at this point in the game. He has the Gem Splitter and he has the Grease Bot, which is the perfect setup for George. Golden Gem Splitter now, in fact, and the pig to go with it. This is the kind of George board where every opponent for the rest of the game could play Ghoul against you and you probably still win the lobby if they don't get too thick, because you actually output so many raw stats now with your Blood Gems and your Grease Bot that the mere fact that they have to sell a real minion and play a 1-3 instead by putting a Ghoul on the board actually just works to your benefit because your stuff gets too big. Dog is in really good shape here, even to compete with some of these potential huge Lightspawn players that we're going to see a few turns down the line.
It's also a very Dog kind of board where it can still go in several directions despite the obvious game plan. There's still 2 or 3 slots he can maneuver around in. And an average player like myself might end up getting into a pickle later on, but Dog will turn this into a monster over the next few turns. Probably with, I'd like to see how he maneuvers the gems around in particular, and where he how he decides to use the available 2 or 3 slots. Bill just going for maximum tempo on the left. He was doing the thing you were talking about a lot yesterday, making sure he didn't waste gold. Obviously, that's a straightforward concept, but sometimes not easily done. So he just stopped on 2 gold and had a long thing to work out how he would use that piece of gold so he didn't get tangled up and waste money.
Yes, indeed. These tanks, how exactly these intervals work on these shots from the tanks is going to be huge, because you can see right now, for example, the Quillbore is getting to be the biggest thing on board, and now the Grease Bot is getting to be the biggest thing on board. But yeah, okay, he manages to get full value out of everything before those shots go down, which is the only real relevant factor here. I imagine, unless I have criminally misread the situation, that he was always going to be losing this fight. Which, yes, does seem to be the case. Yes, indeed. He was just, from Dog's perspective, looking to make sure he got the maximum juice out of his Blood Gems and his Grease Bot before those tanks shot them down. And for his perspective, that's a big win. That is a big loss, though, for Slissa, who goes out with Eagle in 8th place. And DeLonghi hits Golden Lightspawn into a Dream Elemental Discover with the Nomi as well. This is ludicrous scaling. Still 29 health to play with if she does want to focus, hyper-focus on milking here. She can stay very weak for another turn or 2 and really milk that Golden Lightspawn if she wants to.
So we haven't talked about this exact case that much. You've talked about how with a Lightspawn you don't pick up the Elementals, but with a Nomi for backup, you can kind of do both things at once, right? You can pick up the Recycling Wraith and sort of go through some of these 11-11s to keep yourself alive, but then you don't milk, or you can go the other way and just milk, and hope that your Nomi's good enough later when the Lightspawn stops doing its job.
Yeah, I think slowly transitioning over to the bigger elementals is a decent idea now. She can choose to pick up the one more elemental here. The fact that it is the refresh elemental as well is huge. That is the missing piece of the puzzle now. She's now going to be able to cheat so much gold with that over the coming turns. But she wants to keep... I would then say make the rest of your board as weak as possible and keep the Death Rattle minions, which she is doing with the Sewer Rat and with the Egg. That's a few procs. I think she also wants to move the Nomi up to the left-hand side of her board so she gets the death of that, which she's not doing here, which I'd have to say was a mistake.
Seeing Tyler's board for the first time in a while, on tank build. That's the only way I can word this these days. I know there's a green thumb in there, so it's technically an avenge build, but this is tank build. This is survive and see what happens.
Indeed. Yeah, and survive he will. This is not looking good in terms of a W against Collins on the refarm here, but I think he will at the very least survive, although that Genie and that Cleave are going to have a little something to say about it, I think.
Yep, that can drop some lethal damage down, but no, he's escaped everything.
Yeah, big deal with the shots clearing up a lot of those 6 drops along the way. That is a reasonable looking drop though. Free Smogger for Collins on the refarm while he's on Tavern 6 is a very big deal.
Collins has just got infinite money on the top level as well. He's going to be the one that emerges to challenge Dog quite likely here. I don't know what's happening here, but we knew it was going to. Dog has got everything going on here.
Golden selfless. Things are getting big. Everything that he needs. Takes the Chalga to go alongside. That's +2/+2 to everything per turn. Just dump all your blood gems, no big deal. He's dumping them all onto individual targets as well, onto the minions he wants to protect, which is a good idea. Doesn't really care too much about everything else dying after it's done his work, but he wants to protect that grease spot and that gem splitter for as long as humanly possible, so that's where everything's getting dumped.
Bill's had a fairly tough game of looking his board whenever it pops up, obviously. And very early on, he had to choose between a tank and a recycling wraith on his triple. And obviously, he's ended up with gold and tank out of it, but not a lot else going on there. Even though it looks nice, it looks like, hey, this is a great mechs build. Actually, it's just a mediocre mechs build, is it not?
It's a very mediocre mechs build, yeah. It's kind of halfway. It's in the stages of transitioning from tempo murder tank board into Omega Buster board, right? Because you can see the death rattles are disappearing a little bit. He still has the reborn taunt, but there aren't that many tokens on his board to die for the tank. He's instead looking to set up for that Omega Buster later on, but he's still some way away from getting there.
They might be relying on Sneed doing his business. He needs an upgraded Shredder, I think. Dog is just so outstanding here, even with a potential lumpy drops with the Baron and with the Death Rattles. Jinbei, he is still trying to milk Nest Matron, but he might die here.
Oh, every time. I think every time we've seen a Sneed get a Baron or a Khadgar on stream, it has just been getting smacked. First vulnerable hit in basically every fight that we've seen. But again, I talked about it earlier. You can look at the board that Dog has now and just give each one of his opponents a ghoul, and he's probably still winning. He has that many stats in play.
Scary thing is, he is going to kill people very high totals as well. They're high-cost minions. It's not just he's got a board of really well-built 1 and 2 drops somehow. He's just going to hurt people. Take 15, unlucky. Like, that's just going to be the story of whoever faces him for the next few turns. Hello? How many triples?
I mean, do you even need the triple? Like,
you take it in case you get another Nomi?
Yeah, but you're probably better off maximizing the number of actual elementals that you play, right? Like, a fraction of a chance to get a second Nomi is not worth playing less elementals, I don't think. DeLonghi does look like she is going to go for max triples here. You don't actually miss that many. You don't miss this many. You don't actually miss that many Ellies by doing it this way around, though, like in the long run, right? Because you can play this Ellie, you can actually play your 1 droplet on board at this point to get the extra Nomi buff, then sell the 62-62. But as you are pointing out, it is a 62-62. Like, do you really want to sell it out at this point?
Maybe
Probably
later.
Not. Maybe later, indeed.
Yeah. Yeah, my instinct was, oh, look at the two triples, but no, look at the 62-62 that's going to keep you alive and enable you to build even more. Most likely, nobody's managed to assimilate any poison yet.
I was critical of the positioning earlier. I think this is much, much better from DeLonghi now. She knows she's queuing into mech, so having the bumper up first makes sense. You do, I think, in my opinion, want then one big, thick attacker to actually do some serious damage to something, get a kill. But from that point, I think you want to go back to Avenge-style positioning, which is what she'd done with the Nomi up front to have things die. But as you can see, it looks like DeLonghi is going to go down here to the refarm on Collins, who just had enough tempo together with those mechs, with that Omega Buster. As I was saying earlier, he had the dream Omega Buster board, found the Buster, paid it off, and just was not able to get there with the scaling, was DeLonghi, even though she had everything available to her in the end.
Yeah, Collins' decision to take that stick is starting to look like it's going to pay off absolutely. Reminder that they do get an extra point for winning the lobby on top of the regular point, so that is a factor in anyone's decision when it's going to go right the way up or not, and Collins is not going to turn that down for next time.
More damage coming through from Dog, just Dog doing Dog things, winning every fight, as I called out early on. Like, after I'd got the lobby wrong and recorrected it, I said this is a fantastic Dog lobby, and then he hit basically everything, and then from that point forward, he has just been the absolute killer in this lobby so far. Everyone else is just living on borrowed time, waiting to see if they can come up there against Dog. And even with, for example, the second strongest player in the lobby, let's say, if you want to say that that is Collins, Collins can't even really buy a ghoul to set up against Dog, because it's actually quite damaging to his own board as well, and is only a very small net positive, I would say. So this is very much looking like a Dog lobby from this point onward.
We're going to get a glimpse into that now, because they are facing off. Dog against Collins. You can see there on the left, he's facing the farm. So the battle for first and second and the battle for third and fourth are both going to take place here. But it could change, because Dog could just kill Collins, although I don't think he will.
So how much damage does he actually have on board in total? That's 5, 7, 8, 12, 15, 20, 24, plus he's having 5? Yeah, so literally everything would have to live, right, to make that happen. Does seem a tiny bit unlikely.
Pretty large going into this himself. It's not like it's going to occur. We are going to get a view into this. Who's scaling fast? I think like also Dog and like Golden Family.
Yeah, I mean, in the truest sense of the word, Collins isn't scaling from this point, right?
Yeah.
Like, he actually needs to hit to improve his board, whereas Dog just passively gets bigger every single turn. So Collins will need big high rolls, Golden Buster, Golden Baron to actually have meaningful improvements.
That's the worst passive I've ever heard, even though
Yes.
there's nothing passive about all these aggressive gems.
Passive-aggressively getting bigger every single turn.
The expected outcome, but also Collins showing how strong he is, looking very much like the first second there. Jinbei getting absolutely wiped out here by Bill.
Which means it's a 1-2-3 for Americas. Once again, they are putting in a sick performance in Battlegrounds. They have really carried the region, have the Battlegrounds team so far, and once again, they won't know this yet again. Remember, the players do not know who is who until the end of each lobby, but they will get the good news very, very soon that they have once again absolutely crushed this lobby.
I just love how all the other players are like, oh my goodness, this is exciting, this is nerve-wracking stuff, and Dog just wants his 9 points to start the next lobby. He's bored out of his brain. Just give me the points, I can't lose this. Do I really have to put these gems on these stupid minions? Why do I get 10 gems every turn? I don't want them anymore. He's almost pointing them at random at this point, trying to keep everything exactly the same.
Meanwhile, Bill is going digging for triples. He's in a very similar spot to where Collins is, right? His power level, I think, overall is somewhat weaker, but he needs to be digging for these tools. I think you saw the fist pump come out there as he finally hits his Omega Buster. He is some way behind where Collins is in terms of actually putting together this big power scaling comp. But at least finding the Omega Buster here gives him some hope, because remember, he does still have a decent tempo advantage because of that golden tank that he has on the far right, which can create some crazy snipe situations when it comes down to a board that is going to be a little bit fragile from Collins here, at least until that first Buster goes off.
I feel like even without knowing who he's against, Bill is just going to be delighted with wherever he finishes, third place, second place, whatever it ends up being. He's not had an easy run in this game. He's had cards, but everybody got things handed to him in this game. And Bill's kind of had to just play for tempo to stay alive pretty much every turn for quite a while. He's just done the limp your way up the leaderboard.
Yeah, I think he did it well. Obviously, Golden Tank has something to do with it as well, but I did get that impression every time I looked over at Bill's board. It's like, wow, this is still alive in this lobby, which is, you know, probably a testament to how well he has been hanging in there up until this point. But yes, once again, Dog is still looking very much like the king of this lobby, as Collins and Bill are scrapping it out for the remaining food left on the table.
Just if Collins does find a way. Now he's got a double mech wall. He can go for a wall if he can run up and have some sort of action going on.
Yep,
so that's going to be his plan.
Yeah, no, I like that plan. I think that makes a lot of sense as well. Putting the Annoy module just on the Buster, for example, he could then still get a second Buster into play to allow for his parrots, and then any Divine Shields that he lost would not be a big deal, with the Divine Shields then being gained from the Buster. But actually, that thought not even occurring to me, the fact he picked up Golden Buster off the fight against Bill. Once again, that was not handed from one to the other, as two teammates who knew they were teammates would have absolutely done in a refarm situation. That was a happy accident, and all the happy accident does anyway is help, you know, America's on America's violence here between the two players that are left, so ends up being fairly irrelevant.
Collins deep in thought. Dog's looking at something in this shop with vague interest and slight at least.
Baron, yeah. He has enough blood gems that he can potentially counteract a big Baron on the other side with a big zap of his own. That's kind of what he's doing, just trying to work out where his break point is, how big he wants his zap to be. And he says, big, actually, as big as humanly possible, trying to play around as many break points as he possibly can.
Collins has just stared at this board for a good 30 seconds there, presumably looking at that Kangors, whether it's something that can actually help him.
No, it can't. You can only, when you're playing Buster build, you can only be one or the other. You can be Parrot or you can be Kangors. You can't be both, and he's way too deep into Parrot build. But seeing the zap on the other side, seeing the way he's set up, that is going to be a snipe on the Baron. That is going to be a basically guaranteed lethal from this point, I would imagine. Tracker up there says 70% lethal for Dog, but Dog went first, which I would suspect turns that 70% into 100.
Makes a lot of sense. It play out. Collins, nice recognition to switch comp, or try to switch comps, recognizing not that he was in trouble so much, but recognizing he was going to third place anyway, and using that time. But yeah.
I'm just laughing. Look at the size of his stuff again. Just imagine if he got gold every single round, he would still have this board with this number of stats on it. George in this lobby, in a Quillbore Mechs lobby, is disgusting. However, if you take those things away from him, he's very, very bad. So his average win rate across all lobbies is actually quite low, which I think is another huge skill cap thing in Battlegrounds, because it's one thing to just look at the hero tier list and learn that by rote, right? And just say, okay, George is a low tier 2, high tier 3 hero, right? He changes so much when you start flicking around with the tribes in and tribes out, and having a Quillbore Mechs in lobby in particular just makes George so strong, because you don't even necessarily need to hit both to be in a really powerful position, as Dog did there. One or the other is usually enough to start getting you rolling, and really no one in the lobby even kind of bothered with the ghouls at that position, because they knew A, they were mechs themselves and it was kind of a handicap in that position anyway, and B, like, what was it even going to do? The stats were just too big. Elementals did not even get there. The player in the best position to do that was DeLonge on the patchwork.
Yeah.
And I would like to go back and look at like her 2 turns prior to her dying, where I think she might have still been a little bit too focused on maybe tripling into other things instead of just scaling her elementals at that point. Because she had the refresh elemental, she had a golden light spawn already, and she had the Nomi. That turn where she ended with the tripled elemental on board, there was a lot of different ways that you could have approached that with the idea of not dying that turn. I think it was still an unfortunate beat to find someone strong enough to kill you on that turn, but I think she was probably the only hope to compete with what Dog was going to output at the end. If she could convert into enough cyclones and then pick up, or enough cyclones or enough wildfires while also picking up a ghoul, would be probably the only way to deal with that situation. Outside of that, felt like a pretty free win for Dog from that position. It felt like a pretty free lobby for Americas yet again.
Yep, and done in different ways. Bill, I mean, they all got cards, but again, I think everybody in the game got cards to some degree. Bill just making the decision very early, turning down that recycling wraith, just going tank build, keep getting tempo every turn, staying alive. And I think they all recognized early, oh, Dog's on one, he's gone, he's won this lobby. We've got to be able to beat the other fight. Don't even try and compete. The only person I think who even tried to match him was Collins, because Collins got that super strong farm start, which allowed him to beat everybody else and at least try and pick up the pieces to have a go at Dog at the end. But he didn't find the pieces he required because there was a new board needed, basically, that he tried to put together. And yeah, Dog taking it down in the manner you described. So America's off to a monstrous start, though. Although Slitter did get that 8th place, she couldn't turn the corner with Galewind just in time. So that will be a few points less than maybe it looks like.
Yeah, it's still a dominant performance, and an overall dominant performance from Dog, it has to be said. Like, as you were saying, the rest of that lobby was basically 7 postal delivery workers trying to creep through Dog's front lawn without being bitten, and none of them succeeded particularly well, as they all got chomped down one by one. But yeah, massive start for Americas. They needed it. I know there's been a lot of talk just around the Discord for this tournament of the other Americas representatives for Mercenaries and for Constructed, saying, we're doing our bit today. We're showing that there are some other teams in this tournament, but Americas, please, Battlegrounds, please carry us again. We do need those big points once more, and America's certainly in that first lobby showed up big and did so.
Something I wasn't sure what was going to happen in this tournament, and I've been very pleased by it, is will the teams work, cheer each other on as a team? Okay, you want the points because it affects what happens to you personally, but I think there's been quite a lot of camaraderie amongst the teams, that we're all in this together. People are cheering on their teammates a lot more than maybe I thought they would. I thought maybe the Constructor people would stay with just the Constructor people and so on, but we are seeing a lot of people hanging around before and after their matches just to see what the other people are up to in games that they don't always necessarily even play. It's like, explain to me. We're seeing some of the players who play Battlegrounds asking about Constructed. Oh, are we winning? What do we need to draw? I know the cards, but I don't know the meta. And it's been interesting to watch everybody sort of helping each other out with that.
Yeah, there's people just popping up in chat every now and again, like, chat, who's winning? I'm not actually watching, but please tell me who's winning right now. Is it Europe? Is it Americas? Whoever it is you're rooting for. It has been very interesting to see. There has been a lot of camaraderie from what I've seen between the individual teams representing their regions, cross-discipline, Battlegrounds supporting Mercenaries, supporting Constructed, and so on and so forth, which has been really, really nice to see, and I would imagine is one of the big intentions of the event, right, to kind of foster that kind of atmosphere, really drive that team spirit between the teams. I think it has been a pretty big success so far.
And the rivalries have been friendly as well, with people sort of not going over the top, but at least having the occasional jab here and there on Twitter and so on, asking each other, going to beat you sort of thing. Not as much as we've seen sometimes, but I've been enjoying watching all that pan out. As once again, we are now going into talk nonsense mode, because we're not quite sure when the next game's starting or where we're at. So, Sottle, do TJ impressions for 30 seconds. Dancing Monkey, go.
Of just talking about absolute nonsense. He was on a special one today in particular. we had some pretty interesting TJ talking points, as he, in only the way he can. It did somehow make me envy or make me want to hear the TJ and Lorinda show, which is not something that I thought I would be saying, but there have been certain moments of this tournament that would have benefited greatly from some TJ and Lorinda style cast.
And we are thankfully just going to the break. Means the next thing is probably being set up right now, so we'll see you in 10 minutes.
Hell yeah!
Back in the fight. Untouchable.
Smash them all!
Epic. The hunt begins. Operation successful. Excellent work, agents.
以太阳之名，
你的生命终结了。
你们无处可逃！
去死吧！
一人大人必胜。
典狱长在寻找的被遗忘的钥匙，就藏在这座绝密之城中。我们必须抢占先机。
可信量岌岌可危。将见证我的胜利。
他们突破了后防，快撤！快撤！
四大盟约不能再和过去一样各自为政，我们现在必须团结，共同面对横跨诸界的黑暗。无论我们为何而生，无论我们为何而死，只要齐心协力，我们就能粉碎统御之链。
到此为止。
很高兴见到，真是太好了。
寻找命运，命运自然会来找你的。
他们会后悔踏入灰谷的。
巫妖王赐予了我永生。
所谓的命运，要自己掌握。
你在做什么？继承你。
Make no mistake, war is coming.
I am the swarm.
Change drives me. We retake our homeworld.
Nice work. Maybe you should join me on a mission sometime.
It's about time.
Mod GG. More skill.
Get your blades ready.
We'll need some mercs to do our dirty work.
Are you up to the challenge?
My flames are eternal. Rot and decay. Coming through. Call the lightning.
Always plan your next steps. This could be interesting.
These ones must pay a heavy price.
I'm warning you, insect. None can oppose me. We will not sit idle.
Try not to get yourself killed.
They will answer to me.
Be quick about it. I fear no demon. We do what we must. Tremble before me.
Good work out there.
Enjoy this spark of victory, mortal.
迪菲尔兄弟们，一起来！海浪冲刷你，别紧张，死亡狂境有魔法。
金地方国防开胆量，真理比他最响。我们四处望，海大出纳，道路随便闪闪亮。谁叫我们练习小唱，全都让他唱一唱。
还有更多，这个想法很不错，海洋广阔，
人太多，赶快痛快别错过。
还有更多暴风城的战火，还有更多要找个人掌舵。我们帮 Back 包抽出气，我还能整个活。
整活？整的些什么活？你们这群废物，快去干活！小心我拿你喂鱼！不啰嗦。
随便来一波，世界一千多多，做大地探索，出发！还有更多。
好好学着点儿。
破坏效能上线，侦测到敌人。
干掉那家伙，我就给赏金。
哈哈，很好笑。
拔枪！刚才好险。
Battle commences in 5.
Let's light him up.
4. By the light. 3. 2. First blood. 1. Let the battle begin.
Hell yeah!
Back in the fight. Untouchable.
Smash him all.
Epic. The hunt begins. Operation successful. Excellent work, agents.
Welcome back once again to the Hearthstone Global Invitational. We are in the middle of the match between APAC and Americas, and once again I'm going to have to explain why we had an extended break, and that is because two players forgot to remove the skins from their characters on the super accounts and have been penalised, and those two players were DeLonge and Yunjoy. And that means that Americas lead not only by how much they won by, but more than that. They're 23 points to 9 after one lobby. And Sottle, that is a disaster for APAC, who are already up against it.
Yeah, just to avoid confusion, it wasn't skins, it was the streamer mode that was the problem. Just in case anyone's like, hang on, I watched that lobby and there weren't skins on there. It was two players who did not have streamer mode turned on, which is the thing that makes all of your opponents on the far left just say Sneed, Rafarm, Yogg instead of the actual names of the people, which is important as well. But yes, the upshot of what Lorinda was talking about is accurate. That 14-point deficit is going to be a big deal indeed, because coming back from a 14-point deficit in two lobbies with the way this scoring system works is difficult, but not necessarily impossible. Doing it against probably the best Battlegrounds team in the tournament, the team that's looked nigh on unstoppable so far in Americas, is probably very close to, if not impossible.
Yeah, that's made me feel better. I did think it was 2 days running that it was going to be skins. Again, the same thing as streamer mode, but slightly different chance to communicate. So none of this is deliberate, but there are only two rules: turn off skins, turn off streamer mode, that the players have to go through. So rules are being enforced.
It shouldn't be that hard.
Really
Control
shouldn't, right?
Shift S, turn your skins off. That's all there is to it. Shouldn't be that difficult, but yet we keep on getting burned.
But day one, Americas did come back from a very similar deficit. I can't remember exactly, against China after one lobby. I remember sitting with Raven saying, this is going to be hard to come back from, blah, blah, blah. Just exactly what we just said. And they turned it over in lobby 2. They were ahead after the second lobby. But that was Americas. This is APAC playing against Americas, and that whole lobby looked like they were playing great. Even Slissa, who only picked up the 1 point, she lost several favourable matchups in a row. She just had a low health total, which is fine. You do run the gauntlet of low health total in this meta, but if you lose 3 favourables in a row, nobody's going to stop you from exploding early.
All right, here we go once again. Dog finds himself a Sneed. Ironically, he was actually on the Sneed before our first re-game, where Sneed then switched allegiance over to APAC and went over to Jinbei, I believe. So Dog is right back where he started, picking up that Sneed. Slissa going for a Galakron. Collins with the Ysera. Feast or Famine hero, but one with a very, very good average win rate. It's a pick-me average win rate. It's just that average comes in firsts and eighths most of the time in Ysera, just significantly more firsts. And then
Bill,
Ujoy ended up on an Alakir.
Yeah, okay. Bill, I think, just thought forever, knowing he was taking Eudora the whole time. It was one of those, do I have to? Is there anything else? But I was going to comment on it at the time, even before he took it. He was always taking that. So a lot of Feast or Famine in this lobby as well, with another Gallywix hanging about by the look of things.
Tyler takes Finley into Hook Tusk, which is giving him a very solid hero as well. So a lot of real power heroes coming out in this one so far. Real big deal. Like it so far. We are seeing elementals yet again. And we are seeing mechs yet again. So now we are starting to get these power lobbies. And I am absolutely here for it. I think we waited far too long to see what the real power metagame of this tournament was going to look like. But now we are hitting the lobbies where some of the dominant tribes are going to get to fight out against each other.
Yeah, and we did still see the tanks in the previous lobby to some degree, but again, that may be players adjusting because, again, elementals have been missing for the large part. Mechs haven't been in that many lobbies either going into today, but now, thankfully, we are seeing this monstrous stuff that turns up. Okay, Slissa on Galakron. What's your favoured way to play Galakron? Because there's so many ways to go for it.
I mean, can I surprise you, Lorinda? When elementals are in, I like to go for a 4-drop and hit the elemental.
Wow.
Incredible.
All right, so you missed the elemental. What are you doing then?
I mean, well, I can't answer that question because you have to tell me what the 3 4-drops I got offered were instead, right? Because the answer might be still buy one. Like, was one of them a bonker? Was one of them something like it could be any variety?
High main, Cave Hydra, and Wildfire elemental.
Skip. Then I'll go for a 5 at that point because if I hit high main, then that means beasts are in, and I can look for up there on the 5-drop instead and go for that instead. It kind of like reevaluates each time that you miss. Basically, I think that is the best way to play Galakron. Is what's the lowest point I'm willing to stop, which is normally a 4-drop, and then if you miss that 4-drop, that's when you can then reevaluate as to when you can go further on.
Okay, next question. Do you take the 4? And of course you take the 4 on Dragon's Right, unless you want to go for the 3, which seems a little bit premature. I don't think you really need to go for 3.
4 is weird, like the curve is just weird with Ysera at that point, because obviously you actually miss a significant amount by freezing for multiple turns with Ysera. You still get your dragon re-roll each turn, like that will add to the shop at the start of the turn. But you do want to be rolling on 3 for quite some time. I mean, okay, you don't want to be rolling on 3 for quite some time as Ysera. That's not exactly a perfect choice of words. But generally, you will have to be rolling on 3 for some time as Ysera to pick up those Tarragosas before you can then go up and dilute the pool into having 4 with the promo drakes. Or you can just go straight up to 4 and kind of have them both thrown into the pool at the same time and try and hit both. But
just realised it is a chroma wing, so you might as well just take the early triple, because when you level up, you're going to get something good out of it from the.
That's fair.
The big buff. So it might make that decision easier, but it is Collins. That's one of the reasons I ask as well. I'm always scared Collins is going to freeze the next 3 shots and take a 7 or an 8 drop or something that doesn't even exist. Oh, messy triple opportunity for Eunjoy. Curious to see how she goes about this.
Yeah, a little awkward, certainly.
This is where, when you're streaming, everyone starts typing freeze in chat. Freeze, you enjoy. Freeze. Your turn's not over.
Yeah, she's just using the time planning out how this goes. Players have different habits with this thing. I noticed that Dog, perhaps having been burned one too many times in the past, does do first freeze as a point of order. Like when a nuts shop appears, he presses freeze immediately, just so, you know, while he's thinking about what he's going to be doing with the shop, that's never a thing that he forgets to do at the end of the turn. But players do have different habits in those situations.
The mistake of not freezing, if you forget to, or you know, if you can unfreeze, right? The mistake of freezing it is a lesser mistake out of the two.
Yes.
Right, DeLonghi's got a triple stored in the shop as well.
Bzzzt.
Yeah, good Bofa impression. I like it.
Thank you.
One of my favourite things about all of Hearthstone is listening to Bofa do that every single time anybody shoots anyone.
He is very dedicated to that cause, and that does deserve to be commended. Commitment to a bit is always a thing that should be rewarded.
Absolutely. But that is Slissa on the Galacon getting that tank, so she can now level up and get more Galacon goodies as she goes. Plenty of time in the tank bank. Okay, DeLonghi deciding what to do with this triple. She's not got anything with Avenge written on it, but she has all the cards that don't have Avenge written on them that should have.
She does have a fantastic Avenge board, yes.
Thank you for bailing out that sentence. I appreciate it.
What has happened here? Is Enjoy like looking at her tier 4 discover options here and we're just not seeing them? I assume that's what's going on.
That's what it'll be.
Nothing else on this board state makes any sense.
Either that or she's in deep trouble.
Yeah, interested because if she throws this triple, she also throws it alongside the 2/2 Death Rattle, right? Which she then chose not to buy to just land the buff on at the start of the turn, which, you know, I'm not saying is strictly wrong, but it was certainly an option that she's clearly turned down on this turn, ending up with Selfless Hero anyway. Greasebot looks a little weird here, but obviously it does have that one piece of natural synergy with Alec here, because boom, now I have a Divine Shield minion, so you will be those buffs at the start of every turn.
And actually nicely works. There's a very good chance she gets another buff. I mean, she gets another buff on the big minion, but it's fine. Buffing itself every turn is quite sweet.
Yep. Just taking up the dub. 7 damage going through to the Maiev, which is very nice indeed. Perhaps we will see the results of what Maiev was doing there with the 4-drop triple in the coming turns. As we hit the power turn now for Bill. Bill does get a 4-drop golden, which is massive, and he gets a double choice of scalers there as well with the Hogger or the Nomi. Nomi with a Elemental in the shop, I imagine, has to be incredibly appealing, and also somehow he's managed to get to this point still at 36. He hasn't really run into anyone else particularly powerful as he was marching along his Eudora hero power.
Yeah, which is quite weird, because I wanted to look at his board because I'd seen he'd only taken 4 health, but I hadn't realised he'd got such a weak board and had just somehow dodged everything. So yeah, he is looking good to go. Wouldn't mind seeing Tyler's board here, but we can't, so gonna have to evaluate the cards on face value. There are some pirates hidden under there, I think.
Yep, Salty Looter for sure.
I recognise that card a mile away.
Yes, you do.
It's on every single board I've ever made. Just to stop you getting in there first at this point.
No, you're right.
And that's the makings
Preemptive,
of...
preventative measures. I respect it.
I just learned from Raven. I asked him for tips before casting. It's like, how do I stop Sottle destroying me? Well, just do it yourself.
Yeah. You see, all it really does, though, is just make me think of even more brutal jokes and put-downs, because I have to then I have to start thinking of the ones that are so savage that no right-minded person with actual morality would ever dream of saying, and then they can't be preempted.
I have cast with TJ for long enough that I don't respect right-minded people anymore.
Okay, yeah, fair enough.
Okay. Tyler has actually built up a lot of tempo. He seems to go Avenge almost every single time in this tournament at least. Again, sample size thing, but that does seem to be a stylistic choice for Tyler, which may be a consequence of playing a lot on ladder, or it may just be what he's been offered. Who knows?
Bill somehow managed to pick up another fat dub, even though he took a very low tempo 5-drop. Which means he is in a wonderful position now just to start scaling. Not only has the frozen Selly from the shop, he actually picks up Selly off his Tavern Elemental as well, which is absolutely disgusting. DeLonghi here does end up going 4s, finds the Light Spawn, which, as we mentioned, she did have a fantastic setup for the Avenge, which could have her catching up with this Nomi scaling from Bill very quickly. But crucially, she doesn't have the health to play with. She only has 1 hit she can take before she is in range of that 15 damage cap that is still in place with everyone still alive in the lobby. So the amount of time she has available to milk a Light Spawn here might be quite limited.
Bill choosing to freeze this elemental. I was wondering if he might just sell 3 and take it so he gets a new shop, a fresh shot at another light spawn himself, or a second Nomi, or into a triple into a Nomi, but he's got the triple in the shop as well, which I've only just spotted, which makes a lot more sense now.
Yes.
There we go. Resolve that. Right, let's see how quickly DeLonghi gets scaling here. Pretty quickly by the look of this board.
Yeah, it starts scaling real quick, but, you know, as mentioned, this is the kind of board where I would love to have 30-something HP, and then I'll just sit there with these Acolytes in play for the longest imaginable time, get my Ellies up to 20, 30, somewhere in that range in the shop, and then start buying things out. But if she loses this first fight immediately, which she is heavily favoured to do from this position, I think, she's going to have to think almost immediately of actually going to a full tempo board that's as strong as possible. And then from that point, there's no real indication that the elementals get that much bigger from that position, because your goal is to win fights from that point, obviously, as opposed to just allow your entire board to die.
In the hypothetical where she does have 35 health here, do you sell the dog and put something like less useful, less strong in the place just so it will actually die?
Absolutely, yes. The Micro Mummy can absolutely stay. That's a 2-for-1 minion that can actually protect you some health as well, because it's already got the Divine Shield and so on invested in it. But the Pup Bot is just 1 minion, and I would deliberately weaken my board. Again, in the hypothetical where you have enough health to do that. In her position, she's absolutely not able to, and she's going to have to start buying larger elementals immediately.
How did Collins get from where he was when we last saw him to not having this triple on the board already?
Well, we did see the intermediary where he already had the Golden Taragosa, but he did not have any of the Chroma Wings on the board. So I think the first triple found either part of the Taragosa triple or one of the promo Drakes, and then he's managed to pick up a whole second triple on the Chroma Wing all over again since then.
And he is doing this sort of thing where this is probably the last turn where he's in danger for a long time.
Yep.
He could die here to not many things, but if the 2020 does get shot down by a large elemental or runs into something a couple of times, a couple of bad hits, he could just die. That's why he's picked up a 327, just to tide things over. But he is good to go starting next turn.
Absolutely, yeah. Golden Taragosa not only keeps buffs from combat, it also doubles them. Promo Drake is going to be giving +10, +10, +2, +2 for each dragon that is currently in play. So that 2020 is immediately a 40-40 for this fight, which means, Surinder, I'd take your statement and go even one further. I would be incredibly impressed if I was the Ysera player with that board and I faced a board that beat me on that turn, knowing that I had a 40-40 in play.
So not much actually beats this, right? Murlocs aren't in this lobby, I don't think. So it beats this, but it doesn't beat what this is going to be in 3 turns' time.
Yeah, it loses to the kind of elemental high roll where you get everything on your board to be like a 120-120 because you triple 3 40-40s into those 120-120s, and that's your final board. It loses to that because then they're going to have 6 to 7 minions, the size of your 2 to 3 minions that you manage to make massive. But on an average elemental game, the Ysera Dragons build can absolutely compete with that, and I think we're going to see a couple of fairly average elemental games the way things are going so far.
Slissa with the scornful look of someone who's about to take Rag. Yeah, it's like, the other cards are slightly better, but I can't get anything from them. I'm a little bit weak already. I think I have to take the Rag and hope this works out somehow.
Yo. Finds another promo Drake off the rip straight away on the next turn, which means now that is a full 7 dragons on board, right? So that's 14-14, 21-21 being given from the 2 promo Drakes, doubled by the Taragosa. So that's plus 42, plus 42 permanent stats per turn if Collins AFKs from this point for the rest of the lobby.
And he kind of will, because he'll go to 6 and look for Nadinas now.
Yes, pretty much.
He has the bit that some people do miss out when they're lower MMR in this particular build is the Pyrospawn, the Prestus Pyrospawns at the end. You do need those to get rid of Divine Shields, especially with mechs in the lobby. That can be a problem, but when you pick those up, you pew the shield off, and you're 40-40, which is no longer 40-40, it's now a million. Just has free reign to kill it.
This is clever stuff from Yunjoy, by the way. This is not an easy conversion. This is not like a dialed-in, by the book, by the recipe comp that she's building. She's making very smart decisions here. Picking up the early grease bot, which, as we mentioned, has that one little piece of Divine Shield synergy with Alakir. But then from that point, she's picked up Tarragosas with no other synergy, just to be able to put a Taragosa on the far left for 1 turn, get it a Divine Shield, which it then keeps permanently because of how Taragosa works, move that over to the middle of the board, and then put another Taragosa over on the far left, so that one then picks up Divine Shield, and so on and so forth, building herself a Divine Shield board with that grease bot, which, she's making the best out of a bad situation. I'm not saying that's a comp that's going to win the lobby, but it is a very creative way to scrap for position in a lobby that she would have died very quickly in either, and that is not an easy spot to recognize.
I did feel coming into today that, obviously, aside from Tyler, who we know streams 1 million hours of very high MMR, Yunjoy was the one who, if APAC are going to overturn America's, was the player who had to get the results. She, in my opinion, the games we've seen so far has clearly been their second best player by quite a long way. So she's the one who needs to get those second places, third places all the time.
Remember 2 or 3 minutes ago when I was an idiotic boob and said that we were only going to see average elemental games this game? I did not know that Sneed had double avenging at that point. So yeah, it's going to be a little bit better than an average elemental board from Dog, I'm sure.
It's going to need to be, because Collins is romping away there at the top of the ladder.
Yeah.
But yes. And this is going to be interesting to watch. This is that fine balancing act between making sure you still get some avenge and not dying. And Dog has got a sort of deliberately as low as he dare sort of board. Obviously he's Sneed, so he should still pick up natural avenge as he goes.
Yo, lots of things happening on the right-hand side there as well. Yunjoy actually tripled her grease bot, which is going to turn her weird, scuffed Divine Shield board into something that's actually a good amount of tempo for quite a few turns from this point. Collins, as we saw, is still massive. Nothing's changed there. But he is now on Tavern 5 with the Pyro Drake triple frozen in the shot, ready to look for that Nadina. So things continuing to go very, very well for Collins here.
Yeah, I wonder
Meanwhile,
if Slissa will actually be pleased to face him now.
I was going to say, yeah, Collins has queued into Slissa this turn, who has been the tempo queen of this lobby up until this point, with Golden Tank. But as we can see, every single Golden Tank shot is going to go to that center Taragosa for quite some time. But it's going to be a number of shots short at this point, I think.
But she's early enough not to take the massive hits that the next 3 people who face Collins are going to take. And meanwhile, it did look like she's picked up a Genie, so she might get something going with that Rag. Because she's got to turn from the... Sorry.
But here's the thing, though. She now has the information that there's almost no point in doing that. Because if she goes down the Rag route, she's never going to beat Collins from that position anyway. But what she might do is make herself temporarily weaker with her Mechano Tank to the point where she dies 1 or 2 turns earlier than she would do otherwise. So having now seen a potential lobby winner that she can probably never hang with, she should probably, in my opinion, just focus more heavily on that Mechano Tank and just scrap out for a 3rd, 4th counter position.
And that does look like what she's going to do. Especially when she sees Dog's build in a moment as well. up against the Eudora. How was that going? It was Bill, right?
It was Bill who had Nomi. He went Golden 4-drop Divine Shield Dragon into Nomi. So Bill, I would imagine, is extremely strong at this point, especially because his first shop had 3 Elementals in it. Not his first shop, but his first turn after the Nomi found 3 Elementals, so he should have got very, very big very, very quickly, I would imagine. Far too big for a Golden Mechano tank to deal with just on eyeball, so I would imagine Slissa might be in some real trouble here.
Yeah, and she did exactly what you said. Just stuck Omega Buster at the front of this build, nothing to do with Elementals, just get a chance to survive one more fight before more people get eliminated.
Yeah, I think good opportunity to heap some more praise on Slissa here again. As I called out, she recognized the situation just as I was calling and just did not get baited by that rag whatsoever. Just tried to tempo out as hard as possible. As we can see, that plan is not going to bear any fruit because her opponents are just massive. And this is much more like the dynamic that I was describing basically from day one, where the elemental players tend to laugh at the tank players, but the tank players are kings and queens over everyone else. So far, so good for the elemental players.
Say it's not bearing any fruit, but it has. She's only, inverted commas,
survived.
taken the 15. She survived.
True.
She got unlucky that nobody else died there. That could have been another little ladder limp. Didn't pay off, but it definitely worked out as the right plan.
You're absolutely right. Grin from Bill there. That is the Nomi grin, patent pending. It's the look you get on your face when you roll twice or more without hitting an elemental or having a Nomi on your board.
Yeah, which is always, I thought. I didn't realise other people actually hit elementals in that situation. And Bill has a decision to make when he, depending on what information he has, as to when to bail himself. Despite the fact he's massive and probably go for a while yet, at some point you sell the Nomi and just cry, and that's your board for the rest of the game. It's not there yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say he's in an okay spot to do it, because you say, you know, that's your board for the rest of your game and you cry. That's not necessarily the case. Firstly, he has Golden Lightspawn, right? So he still has a little bit of scaling. Secondly, he has 2 pairs, and those pairs can be tripled, which does still improve your board enormously when you get to stack all of those stats together onto something else. So I really like this decision from Bill to sell out of the Nomi here, because the unsaid thing as to what you were leading towards there was he is playing the Ysera this turn, so he first and foremost needs to maximize his chances of surviving. Bill, understanding he is about to face an extremely strong player here, so he needs to try his damnedest to survive. Cannot do it. 208 now in the center. Perfect Dr. Taragosa positioning as well across the board from Collins, just to make everything as symmetrical as possible. You have to appreciate that is going to be the end of Bill's game in looking like something like a 5th or 6th place here.
One point of interest there to me actually is how Collins is concentrating on making the big one bigger. I know it goes up faster because it's golden, but I'm often tempted to sort of make my 11-11, try and actually get it to 50-50 rather than just add a million stats onto the thing that if it gets poisoned, it dies.
Yes, I think in general your philosophy of that in Battlegrounds is a mistake that I've spent a long time trying to beat out of you and haven't quite succeeded yet. But ever since the early days of you trying to learn the game, you've always been like, oh, I'm going to try and get everything on my board up to 10-10. I'm going to try and make this minion relevant because it feels a little bit irrelevant right now. And I think the problem that you have with that is that the more you invest into multiple minions, suddenly you then have 5 mediocre minions that you've invested in and have to stick around as permanent units on your board. Whereas if you just invest strongly into one thing, you have 6 board spaces that you can play with over the course of the game, which is a much bigger deal. And even in a position as strong as Collins, that's still relevant because you never know how many tech card spots you need on your board at the end of the game when you get there, right? So the more minions you can get rid of and not feel bad about, the better position you're in a lot of spots.
And it's actually going to be borne out here if he plays against Tyler, because Tyler has a 94-93. If you have 3 80-80s instead of that giant turret goes in the middle there, 2 of them die. Whereas this just kills it and moves on with its life. So key numbers there going to work out nicely for Collins. Although Tyler's getting big really fast here.
He has just been a little bit slow with the Infinite Pirate setup there. Hasn't quite got it. The Peggy is doing a ton of work. The Golden Peggy is doing a ton of work alongside Golden Salty Looter, which is giving Tyler a lot of tempo. But he is still 2 hoggers away from actually being able to put something together that can aggressively cope with his opponent. And yeah, you see the bad news. Divine Shield, Poison, and Malgadon basically does all the work that Collins leaves it to in this position, let alone the rest of his board state.
So once again, it's going to be Dog versus Collins in a numbers off. Who can numbers the other one? And this time it looks like it's Collins with the upper hand.
Yeah, I will confess I did not take a good look at Dog's board. Was focusing on the left-hand side of my screen, so we'll see what he's got. Okay, I mean 73 Divine Shield, 72 attack over on the right-hand side. The problem, I think, is going to be that Divine Shield, Poison, and Malgadon that Collins has on the top of everything else. And the fact that currently Dog's only Divine Shield, okay, made me a liar as soon as I said it, but originally Dog's only Divine Shield was also taunted. That means the Pyro Drake can actually come into play as well. There's an opportunity that that Divine Shield can be sniped by a dragon attack on the other side. So yeah, looking like a pretty significant edge over to Collins at this point.
Dog rolled through a lot of stuff there very quickly. Is he just primarily looking for selfers? There was an opportunity to take a pair there a couple of times, and a pair obviously can grow into a triple, as we're actually going to see. I was kind of surprised that he didn't go for more pairs, but he was looking for something very specific here.
Yeah, I think more Divine Shields, more Cyclones, more Wildfires, or just Wildfires in general at that point, I think are very, very worthwhile. When you come down to this kind of final fight, top 2, top 3 situations, your plan of, okay, just make the Ellies bigger is over, and you're instead focusing on, right, let's find the actual really good Ellies, right, to maximize your chances of winning as much as possible. So I think he was looking for specific stuff there, did find quite a lot of it, found a triple in the end, does now have another Divine Shield frozen in shop, but Collins, in the meantime, has found the Nadina, and that should pack it up, and I think he's giggling to himself because he knows if you were going to actually write down the step-by-step route through what you would call the Ysera nuts, that was Collins' game that he played. Like, he just had everything. Incredibly early Golden Taragosa, 4 promo Drakes, a second Golden Taragosa to follow, Golden promo Drake, Divine Shield, Poison, Amalgadon, and then the Nadina for the final fight to shut down any chance of your opponent coming back. That is the absolute turbo nuts on Ysera.
Yeah, it was only a 30% lethal, but it does look like he's landed it. I was kind of interested to see Dog's effort to try and change the comp around, but...
Sure, yeah, fair enough.
But he has landed the kill there, and it's another 1-2 for Americas.
Yes, a 1-2 belonging to Americas. The 4 was APAC. It was a 1-2 for Americas, a 3-4 for APAC. So APAC did a little bit better. We're a little bit more competitive that time around. But I would imagine now, almost certainly with the lead that Americas had already, and the fact that lead has now probably expanded significantly based on another 1-2, that the third lobby is just for fun at this point, and that is going to be another Americas win wrapped up.
Well, maybe Americas will do us all a favour and leave the skins on to make it competitive.
They're suddenly just breaking out all the beachwear all of a sudden, just to kind of throw away some points, make it fair. Yeah, they're all just lounging back AFK style on the beach, both IRL and in skin form. Yeah, you love to see it.
Sort of barbecue in the background to cheer them all up. It's a celebration party with the skins on. 4 points. Can you beat us? And then they come 1, 2, 3, 4 anyway and just shut out the top level of points. So even though their points would go down to 1, the other team get none anyway.
Turns out this is a really good Battlegrounds team. Who knew? Who knew, looking at these 4 animated faces that you see in every graphic for this tournament, that they were going to be good at Battlegrounds? 4 of the best players that we see. The perfect mix of kind of the high-profile streamer personalities, but also I think in Americas, those high-level streamer personalities are also the high leaderboard players, right? And it's not a 1, 2, 3, 4 in terms of the leaderboard for Americas, but it is 4 players who are way, way, way up there. Dog has been rank 1 in the past. Collins has been rank 1 in the past. Salissa is an incredibly high-rated, consistently top 25, top 50 level player. And you were making the argument that you might even think that Bill, who is perhaps the underrated player on the team, might be the MVP overall.
Yeah, I'm not so sure, having just watched how Dog and Collins are destroying everything, but I know that whenever I watch streams, the streamers are complaining that Bill's knocked them out again. And I'm talking top level, sort of 25, top 50 player streams. And Bill is a constant thorn in their side. So, yeah, I would not be surprised. But there we go. 23-14, that's this lobby. And they already had
Indeed.
that monstrous lead. So it's what, 46-23, something like that?
Yes, exactly that. 46-23, precisely twice the points for the Americas region as APAC have available, and there is that confirmation, which means that you'd have to get a 23-0 in the final lobby to bring this one down, which you might be able to surmise, based on the way the other 2 lobbies have gone, is absolutely impossible and is not going to happen by any circumstance.
And I just made the mistake of having a very quick look at chat to see how they were reacting to that scoreline. And there's Bofa in there with a scowly face. Bill, yeah. Like, Bill obviously knocked Bofa out of several lobbies in his life as well.
Yeah, I mean, he's been a Hearthstone terror for quite some time, right? Multi-discipline, you know, incredible constructed player when constructed was kind of the only competitive format in Hearthstone. He's continued to do that across many different styles. You know, good old witty Bill. He is witty and wise.
When you first said that, I just thought you'd read his name wrong. You had to actually explain to me that you weren't stupid, which was quite the conversation. I'm like, how can it be witty? It's just WTY. But yeah, Americas are in a good spot. Obviously, looks like they've won the lobby, but I've got a feeling this lot won't let up. They've sort of carried the Americas region through this tournament so far, and I think they'd like to put on a bit of a show for us in that 3rd lobby.
Yeah, I think so too. I think there's also a very good chance that this is their victory lap as well, because I don't think they can be eliminated at this point. I don't think there's any way they can finish 4th in the standings based on this result now. Like, this is a Battlegrounds victory. This is going to be 2 points going over to them regardless of the results of this 3rd lobby, which means for the overall combined standing, I believe, and again, never pay too much attention when casters say this kind of stuff on air, because we're not admins and we don't control anything officially. Right now, I'm just a language streamer. I'm not even officially hired to work this event, so I know even less about what's going on. So take it with an even bigger pinch of salt, but I would imagine that that means that Americas are guaranteed qualified for the finals, cannot finish in 4th place now. So this is a real opportunity to take that big victory lap and try and round it out with a 1, 2, 3, 4. That's probably the only thing left for Americas to try and nail down in a Battlegrounds lobby.
Yep, send a message, as the cliche goes in all other sports, but I refuse to use it, so they're not going to send a message. They're just going to come 1, 2, 3, 4, because that's what they enjoy doing.
They woke up today and chose violence. All the memes and cliches that we can bring out if we really want to, Lorinda.
Yeah, it's a game of 3 halves, but 2 of the halves have already gone to Americas. How long have we got to do this? We could do this all day.
We get an interview with the Americas players and they just start popping off like Kevin Keegan. I would love it if we won this tournament.
APAC, Europe, China, your people took one hell of a beating.
Please tell me you got the Kevin Keegan reference. You're the only other person I think I could get on to rely on. Oh, so disappointing.
But I am a little bit out of it and trying to focus on the Battlegrounds slightly more than the memes today, otherwise I might just collapse or something. We wouldn't want that, at least not on stream. So just sitting around, having a look, how's it going? And yep, we are good to take a break while we set it up. Also, if you think this one is over and you're thinking of leaving the stream because that's it for the day, we have got Europe versus China straight after this with more Battlegrounds. So if you're a Battlegrounds fan, please do hang around, even if the next lobby might just be an exhibition. See you in a few minutes. Surprise, we're back. It's game number 3, and we're into the lobby immediately. There we go. Collins on Hook Tusk. He's had... Oh my goodness, this roll for Collins. He'll take over immediately here.
Yo! This is what I like to refer to as Hook Tusk having a totally normal one. Just getting on with her business, sitting around, generating money, printing money, being stronger than everyone else in the lobby, while also being richer than everyone else in the lobby. This hero, Dorinda, it's the only thing you can say.
I can't even say it. I left it for you to say. Jimbe on the freeze.
Sorry, this hero.
So...
There you go, you can say that.
Thanks, Sotto. Right. It's war. The war. We've got a whole new series coming up, and it's going to just be us being nasty to each other. Get the Hearthstone. Right, I'm not going to forget the Hearthstone. I'm actually really enjoying this Battlegrounds competition. Let's try and get an overview of what is actually happening in this lobby. Thank you.
Yes, no, precisely. That is all that matters. Congratulations.
So there are elementals. I know I keep saying like that, like it's a surprise when there's favourite to be elementals in the lobby, but that just is not how it's been going over the last few days. Tyler on the Omu, an aggressive hero, obviously. If they're going to get anything out of this, I haven't mathed it, but let's go with if they come in the top 4 slots, they might have a chance. I don't think that's true, but let's go with it.
It's
not. But let's go with it. Oh, you know about narrative, Sotto. Yeah, we can pretend we didn't know and keep everybody hooked in.
I believe in truth and purity and journalistic integrity, Lorinda. That's what I believe in.
All right then. Well, that's me completely out of morals. I'm done. I believe in narratives and dinosaurs.
True. Yeah, that's fair. I believe in dinosaurs is a wonderful statement to make on a globally televised broadcast.
Okay, something we can talk about here, because we don't see it very often, is Zephyrus. This is a hero that has been played in multiple different ways, and you have to change it each meta. Is it worth going for fairly early triples? I'm talking 4s, possibly even 3s with Zephyrus in this weird tempo meta that we've got at the moment.
Yeah, I think so. I think generally with Zeph, you are right in that the way to play it has adapted through time, but the top-down idea of it has stayed relatively the same, which is use 1 or 2 of your hero powers to find a win condition, and then try and save the 3rd one for tripling something super greedy, right? Like, if dragons are in, Murazond is what a perfect target you can shoot for, because how many Battlegrounds games have you played where you bought one Murazond, rolled, found a second one, and gone, okay, I'm rolling my remaining 6 gold to look for another Murazond, right? And then not finding it, whereas Zephyrus can solve that problem immediately. And I think with that in mind, the idea of just tripling into a 4-drop, finding a light spawn, and then using another hero power down the line to triple that light spawn when you inevitably find a second one is a pretty solid way to set up. But it should be represented that Zephyrus is a pretty weak hero represented in the stats at the moment. You know, even lower than a lot of the heroes I've spent the last 2 days saying, like, this is a mid to low tier 2 hero, but very playable if you do want to pick it up as a pet hero. Zephyrus tends to be actually even a little bit lower than that at the moment.
Yeah, I think he's sunk down because, as you're seeing throughout all of these games, every hero, or every good hero, and there's plenty of them, has ways to make triples without spending 3 extra mana these days.
Yeah.
Or at least freeze a shop as you go and pick up things as you go. Zephyrus, you kind of have to buy awkward doubles for the sake of it a lot of the time. And that sometimes can mess you up quite horribly, as well as the fact it is very expensive.
This is super interesting, by the way. Slissa on Shiny Curve as Cook. Not really something that I've seen done a great deal. She is going to get rewarded for it, as she is going to be picking up a pretty strong triple. But it's usually, we do see people going up a little bit more with Cook, looking for those higher tier discovers earlier on, going for more of a 3-on-3 curve instead.
Curious to see how that goes. Just, Tyler on the Omu, not messing about, full on everything. It's a beautiful Omu start for Tyler, where you do the whole level, token sell, buying things as you go up through the levels and get up there very, very quickly. It's a dream start for Tyler on that Omu. We're going to get to see Slissa's next turn as well, which is good. See how she develops from here.
Jinbei gone all the way to 6. Picked himself up a doggy along the way. It is kind of a weird win condition for Gala in particular to take in this situation because dog in particular, I probably shouldn't call Great Wolf dog when there's actually dog, in the lobby, right?
I was thinking that's
probably
their only chance. Is APAC signed dog? Yeah.
Yes. So having you pick Galakron, you have a 1 in 3 chance of hero powering any minion in your shop into dog. Yes, most people will probably play that hero. But Great Wolf is kind of a weird pickup for Galakron because generally you want scalers where you don't really care about the fact that you're low tavern, because Gala does tend to be low tavern for a lot longer than most other heroes. So for example, if you find a Nomi or a Light Spawn, you can still get those LEs and cycle through those LEs and they still get big stats even though you are on lower tiers, whereas Great Wolf tends to want specifically Parrot and Hydra and so on and so forth to go with it and complete that comp, which does leave you quite weak for quite some time as you then push up those tavern tiers looking for those pieces.
Yeah, I feel like this is a pick made in desperation of the match state. Again, if they're going to play this lobby, which it appears they are doing because they're playing it,
yes.
APAC have got to go with the view we've got to come first, second, third, and fourth, and then hope for a bonus points awarded by the invites for clean sweep or something.
America's retroactively confessed that they've had streamer mode off for the entire tournament.
Right, so if you're going to play it, you've got to play it under those conditions and try and get the top 4. So just aggressively going for anything that might work seems to be the play there.
Yeah. That is... those are not 4 drops on the right-hand side. Those are barely 5 drops on the left-hand side. Bill is looking for a hero power target here and has not definitively found one. Like, you have to be able to hero power something as Reno and look yourself in the mirror the next morning. If you can't do that, then concede is usually a better option. And these minions are pretty borderline for being able to do that.
It's always Baron. When they're garbage, Golden Baron's always the way forward. He's got it.
He's not there. Yeah, you see the shake of the head. He knows. He has to look himself in the mirror as a man that hero powered a Baron with 0 death rattles on his board. And I don't think he can do it.
He'll do it. I'm telling you. He's going to do it. He's going to not look in the mirror. He's going to wait until the next game and then forget it happened.
Seriously, I don't think you do it this turn, though. Because turning your 1-7 into a 2-14, does that win you a fight that you were going to lose? Like, probably not, right? So I would imagine you just wait 1 turn and just see if you can hit something better. Because you have 2 other pairs on your board as well, right? Like, it's not like you're completely desperation mode in terms of trying to find something.
Had a board of 2 2s that a 2-14 could have wiped out.
It turns out his 2-14 was a murder stick this turn if he'd have actually gone with it. Yeah.
But I do agree, like in hindsight, you do get 1 more turn to have a look through, but then you do have to, I think, hero power. Assuming he picks up a death rattle of any consequence on this next turn.
Nothing there. He's moved the Soul Jugglers, which is always a indication that he's at least considering the options. Continues to be nothing. He does find death rattles, but they're death rattles that are absolute garbage to go with that Baron. But more importantly, he finds the triple on the Tabby Cat and gets to find something that he can golden with a bit more self-respect, like a Chef Nomi. However,
I guess he's got to consider the croc with all those.
He did get a pale scale, yeah, which is an interesting option, right? Now, while he's thinking about that,
watching Bill. Yeah, let's go to you, Joy.
What's been going on the other side? Because there's still some hero powers remaining for Yoonjoy here. She has picked up a triple or 2, and she does have an Azul with a couple of demons in the shop as well that she can look to power out on. She is all the way down on Tavern 4 though, which is going to make that idea of using a Zephyrus triple to actually make a big win condition quite difficult, because she's still some way away from getting those levels in still.
Bill's final board here does look like it's not going to hurt him too much over this turn. It's a very wonky, wobbly board, but it's full of numbers. That's good.
Are you aware who this Gallywix is, though?
Oh, it's Collins? No, I'm not aware.
It's Dog.
Oh, okay.
And it's Dog, and he's winning the lobby as a Galliwick. So I fear what. Oh my. Okay. What on? How is that winning the lobby? Hello. What is your matchup RNG this round, Dog? Hello.
I mean, to be fair, we haven't seen anybody with a dominating board of any sort, really. Everybody's been in this sort of scrambling to find things mode.
I suppose that's fair.
You know, we've got a golden doggo on the right-hand side from Jinbei. We've got almost hero powering a Baron that turned into a Nomi, that turned into some numbers over here. Yeah, I think everyone's just got scramble mode on, which might favour Bill. If they're all scrambling around trying to get a comp together, he can just build up elementals rapidly. Yeah, this might be over for Bill.
Oh, Jinbei, though, is piecing it together. He hit, as I was describing, you do want to find very, very specific pieces to go with Great Wolf. He has found 2 of those very specific pieces already with the Macaws, and he's now found his way to another triple and nails the Baron! First rip, which means he is already astronomically strong. Picking up just a sewer rat to remain strong for quite some time here. He's going to switch his wolf to going first because he's recognizing now in this spot he doesn't need, you know, a buttload of parrot value to actually be powerful in this position. He can just fill his board out with some beasts temporarily, push himself up through the levels, and then he can sell out these death rattles at a later date to isolate the Macaw and the Great Wolf interaction.
Yeah, I'd love to see it because he took the gamble on turn 5 or whatever it was just to go for this, and sometimes it doesn't work out, but again, match state says you might as well, and so it's a good chance working out for him. He's got plenty of rolls left. He will have to spend some time getting to the Tavern 6, I think, to try and look for golden pieces, but that's fine.
For Jinbei you're talking about?
Yeah.
He doesn't necessarily, though, right? Because he is Galacrond. He can, quote, discover a 6-drop every single turn by being on Tavern 5 and just shooting something away. So he might be able to chill on 5 and just shoot for those extra walls with the hero power.
I'd totally forgotten there was a Flurgle in this lobby. I don't even remember who was on it. I think we got into the game a bit of a quick fashion, sort of missed the picks, but this looks like quite a decent start for the Flurgle.
It's not bad, yeah. It's not quite going to be competitive enough with the board state that Jinbei has, I believe, because of the size of that remaining hyena, and because the SI Sephin was sniped out early, which is the far more criminal thing. DeLonghi not only loses the fight, but she'd be willing to lose that fight in exchange for a couple of poison minions, but because the snipe happened early, she's not even getting that.
Enjoy. Okay, going to use the Mama Bear. She kept a lot of options open going into this turn, but she just looks like she's going maximum tempo because no really good use for this hero power at the moment. She's trying to generate minions like Mama Bear that could give her a good use for this hero power. Possibly the 3rd use, given on how the board looks with the 2 goldens already there.
That is the mother of all rats. If she does want to go for it, probably on the next turn, right? She can get 2 mama buffed rats on board and then hero power to then replay the rat again with the mama.
Shame there's not like 19 spaces or something on the board to develop 19 rats. Always think it's a shame. I don't, because it would take so long for the fight when it splits into 19 1-1s that all get murdered by Collins' 200 dragon or something.
Dude, imagine the leapfrogger meta if there was infinite board space for rats.
Oh my! Fights would take a quarter of an hour. We could play them during
everyone's
breaks.
processor just actually catches fire as soon as there's a rat pack involved.
Colin's about to triple a light spawn. Oh, he already has. He's about to triple another one.
What did you think was happening? All 3 of them are in his hand already. Like,
I'm already halfway through EU versus China, so I think it's coming up in just a moment.
Slisser on Cook going for a little bit of a Mimi build here. Does have the synergy between the parrots, the dragon, and the what's the missing tribe in that situation? Demon, sorry, yeah, they're going down, but without specifically a Taragosa, it doesn't really do anything, and even then, without your hero being specifically Vol'jin, it's actually very hard to turn that into any kind of winning position. So Salissa looks like she is going to go down, unfortunately, in 8th place yet again here. She is going to go down at the hands of her teammate Collins, but as we keep mentioning, okay, she goes down in 7th, essentially, tied for 6th, 7th, 8th, as all of those players do.
And that was Tyler in 8th, who had a pretty good start on the Omu, right? Is that this game?
Yes, no, it was this game, yeah.
So, didn't find anything or leveled aggressively to try and get lucky and didn't. That's probably more likely. As long as being offered things that are nothing to do with anything she's trying to do. So, picks up the Baron to match that Selfless for... hopefully for her, for much later use than right now.
Okay, that's the one that you want to hit and keep on hitting. Yeah, that's very nice as well. Things are going great if you're a DeLonghi fan. Gets her gold back.
Did you maybe make any progress? Yes, he found a taunt, which isn't the hardest part of the equation that he needed. Also picked up the Hydra, wasn't there previously, right?
Yes, no, I believe so. I've been focused more on the left-hand side. Slight ordering mistake, I think, there. Okay, she is holding on to the Cold Light Seer in hand, which means what she did was not strictly wrong, because if she wants to preserve that gold for the next turn, that's fine. But obviously there was some Swolfin stats potentially left on the table there as well.
Colin's going to be actually quite happy to see some of this poison, I should think. Otherwise he was going to be too big and wouldn't have killed anything to progress his elementals.
Yes. Avenge elementals, the very definition of first world problems.
Oh, Jinbei nearly dies to that.
I mean, shout-outs to Bird Person yet again. Like, it's so much tempo in the early game. It can defend your health for so long. We saw how strong the Gala is actually building into, but just that extra immediate tempo that you get from Bird Buddy was just such a big deal in that fight as well.
So how does Collins actually go about this? Because, okay, that's nice. It's a huge minion. You take it. Sure. Next question, Neil. But yeah, how does he get any scaling? How does he get much more going on here? Yeah.
Lorinda. He's doing the thing. He's got a bat
he's got
in his
the bat.
hand.
Oh, I'm happy now. Cool. I didn't see the bat. The thing we were talking about yesterday, which is where you get double fell bat. You leave just the elementals in the shop and it eats them. And he's got the second one. This is perfect.
And he has a Hamul. He has a Hamul, so he can put demons on the board and roll into a guaranteed shop of giant elementals to be able to munch them down. That's insane.
So, will he just freeze the shop forever when he does that? Until they've all been eaten?
Oh! Urzel! Urzel Gummidge.
This is going to be monstrous, ladies and gentlemen.
He hero powered the Hamul into an Urzel. That's so disgusting. So to answer your question, is he going to freeze this? No! He doesn't need to! He just gets to munch the whole thing in a single turn.
It's just my favourite play in the current meta. Just a double fellbat 5 big elemental thing, and having the extra, having the demon taunt is also just even funnier. And I'm glad he's doing it. I'm glad you spotted it, because we were saying it's a rare event to actually see it come off. Well, we've seen it now in the tour. I'm sorry.
It is a rare event, and all the Bird Person in the world is not going to get you through this one. Zephyrus fought away valiantly, but this is looking like a very Collins-focused lobby from this point. Does have to pay attention to the fact that there is poison scam in the lobby. Whenever you see Flurgle doing well and continuing to be alive at this point, you need to plan for poison scam. Collins is currently incredibly weak to poison scam, not even just a little bit weak. No divine shields. He's converting his elementals into demons, which are even less likely to be divine shields than the elementals. Right. So he is weakening himself significantly to that poison scam situation.
Poison scam aside, as you can see, it is going to matter, but this does explain a bit more about this Fellbat build, because yesterday we were saying that it's often done just as a show-off, look what I can do, but actually it does come about at the point where you run out of scaling, we've seen here. The question I was trying to ask at the point where you noticed what was going on was, how do you keep scaling? And actually, you just don't until you switch into the Fellbat. So.
Yeah, usually when you're at this point, it's kind of what I was talking about earlier, right? Where you will try and triple your existing elementals so that you can consolidate those stats into one and open up another board space for another massive elemental. And you'll be looking to replace sub-premium elementals with premium elementals, right? Get Recycling Wrath off your board, replace it with a Cyclone. Get this party elemental that you have for no reason off your board, replace it with a Wildfire, that kind of thing. But you're absolutely right in that switching into the demons does create a much better scenario for you. But you do kind of need those Hamul situations to really make something guaranteed happen. Otherwise, you're in a spot like this where you are just praying a little bit. See one giant elemental getting stuck in the shop. Collins rolls his head back a little bit upset about it.
Yeah, and he's slow on his Divine Shields. He's got the key fight coming up very soon, and he only has the one Selfless.
Okay, that's a huge hit for Collins. The first Wildfire was nice because it cleared up both of the remaining high attack minions, but the second Wildfire hit in the perfect spot if you're a Collins fan, which meant that it did not do a significant amount of damage to the rest of the board and enabled the time.
DeLonghi on the Flurgle. Got the poisons going nicely, gets into that top 3.
Yeah, picks up the kill on the Galacrond. No, all good. A little bit surprising with how quickly the Gala did manage to pick up the parrots and everything to go with that beast build, that it is just going to be a 4th place, but then you look around at the power level of what's going on with everyone else right now, and it starts to become a bit apparent that, there are the alpha builds in this game, and then there are beasts, which unless you hit the absolute nuts is not quite getting there. Somewhat ironic, I suppose, saying that the build that involves the actual wolf is not the alpha build, but that research was debunked anyway, by the way, for those people that don't know that. The whole idea of alpha pack leaders in wolf packs was debunked by the person who noticed it in the first place.
What, they debunked their own research?
Yes, they retracted it essentially and said that's nonsense. That behavior I observed was actually something completely different.
That's exactly what RDU did on Diablo recently.
Nice.
Right, so Collins once again sort of trusting to the fates, but he has got that Amalgadon, which is doing the best of both worlds, right? It's now a demon that eats things, and it's an elemental that was big to start with.
Yeah, and now Collins has switched into some Poison and Divine Shield of his own to be able to support this, which is absolutely the correct decision. Nails the Divine Shield on the interval. It didn't really matter where it went, just that it went in a position where a Poison attacked into it. So the best way for that to happen is for it to just land on the Taunt at the start of the game. But as it stands, she's still going to find her way out of this. One little 4/6 Murloc boy against the world is going to get her out of that fight with her skin intact.
And is she favoured for this lobby now? Is it likely that one of the other 2 players actually picks up enough to deal with it? Bill might be in a better place than Collins with those 2 Divine Shield minions. Even though they're smaller, you can see that 62 against those sort of numbers, he's going to outscale the Murlocs. He's going to have more attack than they've got defense, most likely, and should be able to trade 1 for 2 at some point.
Yeah, and the big deal is the Golden Wildfire as well, right? If that hits correctly, then that can kill 3 poison minions in a single attack if it gets the job done, cleaving left and right. Essentially, it is a full-blown cleave minion at this point. Do think Collins has some game as well. He already had the Myexner and a Selfless on his board, so he can play for Golden Selfless and the Reborn Rattler at this point as well to try and match Poisons and Divine Shields with DeLonghi as well. So I think DeLonghi might just be on borrowed time a little bit here because I believe she was slightly unfavored going into that fight to begin with against Collins in the previous round as well.
Yeah, and she didn't hit with any of her attempts to discover things this round. She has built up their health quite a bit, but again, as you can see, nowhere near the large number that's going to be required to fend off this. As you said, if it turns out that it hits right, which it should.
It doesn't matter, but like I have such an obsession with make number go big. It's my favorite thing to do at all times. So I would have been in that position looking for a way to make my board elementals again as Collins, to then play the Hamul to roll back into elementals, to then eat them all up with the demons. But in the reality of actually playing for winning the game, stats don't matter at this point, right? Like, well,
They're mattering because the Murlocs are big enough health, right?
No, they matter because there's someone else in the lobby that is a golden Nomi player, right? Where that is actually going to be a straight up stats battle most of the time against your opponent. So in a way, the stats do actually matter to some extent, but Collins is just choosing, I think, to use his resources on trying to find a Fellback triple, on trying to find Reborn for the Myexner, trying to find more Divine Shields. Golden Amalgadon off the Seafood Slinger will do very nicely as well.
Yeah. Just watching all these minions savage their friends is great. Look at that, 245.
Woo! Oh my god, what do you even do? Takes another gold. Oh, he ate the other Amalgadon! There was another Amalgadon sat right next to that one, right? That just ended up getting eaten. That is unfortunate with the other Seafood Slinger. Also, unfortunate rolls on the Golden Amalgadon itself. No Divine Shield, no poison.
But he's against the Reno, so the 290 might actually be what he needs right now.
Alright, that's a golden lookout. This can also be more Amalgadons. He'll get 2 discovers from the lookout, finds himself Sephin instead, which is a good consolation. Is going to drop the Baron alongside this. So he essentially, he would hope that he has 4 poisonous minions here. I think he would be optimistic to think his 60 attack is poisonous, but he would hope that his 80 and his 133 are poisonous. Unfortunately, these minions are massive on the other side of the board.
I think he's
but
fine.
It still looks like he's absolutely getting there.
Yeah, and it's weird because you did the thing you told me not to do, which is actually that Amalgadon was, unless it got poison, was worse than this thing becoming 290 because it's just soloed the whole team.
Yeah. Yeah,
bam! Sure. Take 29. And now he's using poison scan. Actually, he might not because he has got the Golden Selfless and the Baron, so...
Yeah, I think Golden Selfless Baron is probably giving him the edge here. As I was mentioning before, I believe he was favoured to begin with, even though he lost last time around, according to the tracker numbers that we saw on stream, and he has significantly improved his position against Poison Murlocs since then.
I think he's come second, first, or second, first, depending on the outcome of this as well.
Get rid of that Amalgadon for sure. Look for a Baron off the hero power. Doesn't find it. Pick up the Reborn Rattler. Reborn that Myexner. That is a crucial piece of the puzzle that DeLonge is missing on the other side, because you can make a golden, shiny, poisonous 500/500 Murloc all you want. When you get to this late game position, any Murloc loses to a Reborn Myexner. So any number of those that your opponent has are going to outclass your board state, and I think DeLonge not hitting those Reborn Myexners herself is going to be our undoing here in the final stages.
Yeah, it's probably a little bit difficult for her to picture exactly what she's up against. The way she did play it 2 or 3 rounds ago, but she might be thinking that 136 health could still be relevant. And it could be there's a 133 attack minion on the other side, so it could actually be relevant. But she's not to know that Collins has found all of the stuff going. And now it's gone, and it's huge again.
89. Yeah, we take those. Pretty much 90% the way that Collins looks at it. Needs to land all these Divine Shields for sure. She did. One of those going on the Baron would probably spell disaster, but every single one of those hit a poison. None of them protected the taunt, which is a big deal, but now that 136 health minion that you were talking about has bitten the dust. I think that is now going to spell disaster, and that is going to be another fat dub for Collins as Americas take down the lobby again.
And if anyone thought that they weren't taking that seriously because they'd already won, that pop-off from Collins shows the competitive spirit of especially the American team, but of course all the people in this competition. He's come first, second and first, I believe, today. And what looked like it might be the dog show at the start turned into the Collins show.
That is insane. That is a run of results for sure. I love that in the close-up there as well, we got to see Collins chuckling to himself, because I kind of feel like, you know, if that was his anime character trait, right? Like if you have the ensemble cast where everyone has that one identifiable thing that makes them unique, the fact that Collins is always laughing would be that character trait. He's one of the most infectious, you know, positive personalities that you will see, always kind of giggling to himself and has this infectious laughter that surrounds him at all times. So that is his reaction to adversity and to success, as you see there, as he picks up a huge win in a Battlegrounds lobby, laughs it off as he would do with anything else. I think that's a fantastic performance from a very good player and from a very special team of Battlegrounds players. Listen, we like to meme on Americas as much as anyone else, but again, journalistic integrity, I'll call it as I see it, they are absolutely destroying this tournament in terms of Battlegrounds.
Yeah, they are. And that makes Collins' performance even more strong. Like, we're singling out RDU for Europe. He's carrying the team the way it's going. But Collins is not carrying the team, but Collins is still the standout player on a team of standout players so far in this tournament. So to stand out amongst Dog, Slisser, Bill, and still be coming first, second, because he's got to beat them as well. They're not his teammates in the lobby. He doesn't know who they are. He is winning this lobby with those three people in it. That's an amazing day's work for Collins.
I think you can flip that on its head as well and say that, you know, that's part of why Americas are being so successful overall, because this is not to take anything away from the other players. Like, yeah, you know, Sun is on the European team. She's a fantastic player, very, very even in overall skill level to RDU. But when RDU is having a bad lobby, it doesn't feel like there's too much depth in that European roster to really pick up the slack. And you can kind of repeat that same thing with like China with Island Cat, for example. If Island Cat isn't going to pick up the big points, where are those points coming from in the China team? Whereas it seems with the Americas team, if Dog has a bad lobby, fine, Slisser will go third, fourth in the day and carry the team, right? If Slisser's having an off day, as she did a little bit today, boom, suddenly it's Collins' time to shine, and he's going first, first, or whatever you said it was in the end. Like, it feels like they have that depth on their bench where everyone is just ready to step up to their moment to hit, and they are all absolutely sharing the points around. There is a real collective strength in this America's Battlegrounds team.
Yep, and that collective strength hasn't just carried them through the Battlegrounds section, but it's almost certainly, again, we're looking at a million things at once when we're casting, so I never want to quite commit, but almost certainly carried them into at least the top three, which guarantees them to be in the final day tomorrow, at least in some way or form. And the rest of the Americas squad will probably be very grateful for that.
Yeah, no, they will indeed. I think there might be one or two thank you notes going over to the Americas Battlegrounds teams, because today we did see the other teams for the Americas in Constructed and in Mercenaries start to pull their weight a little bit, but I think it's very fair to say this has been a Battlegrounds carry for the Americas team so far.
Okay, well, that's us halfway through the day. It's also halfway through this Battlegrounds double bill. America's coming out on top in this one, but we do still have EU versus China, and we're going to start that pretty shortly, so we'll see you then.